Very sweet 16-day stretch for the Florida State Seminoles as they have landed guard Roderick Kearney, linebacker DeMarco Ward, defensive end Keldrick Falk, and now on Monday, probably the biggest of all of them, a massive four-star offensive tackle in Lucas Simmons. Along with Osceola recruiting analyst Charles Fishbein, I am Osceola editor Bob Ferranti. Welcome as we take a little bit of a quick dive into recruiting, what's transpired here over these last 2+ weeks. And Fish, first of all, thanks for joining us. And second, why is Lucas Simmons such a big deal for Florida State right now?
They've struggled for this goes all the way back. It's crazy to go all the way back to Jimmy Higgins. Florida State fans have been very unhappy with offensive line recruiting, especially the tackle spot. I mean, they've had, Roderick Johnson was a big time kid they got under Coach Trickett. But it's never been to the point where it has been like now. It's been a while where they've solved this offensive line problem that it seems like it's been going on for like 2-3 decades. I mean, honestly, I've been going on message boards for a long time, and fans have just been complaining about O-line. And I think the Simmons thing's a huge deal. I mean, one, he's a left tackle. They have not had a traditional left tackle. I mean, they've played Rodney Hudson was a kid that was brought in. He was 6'2". They had to move him outside and play him at left tackle. They've had Cam Irving, and then eventually they had to move him into center because they didn't have a center, and they brought in Roderick Johnson. But they haven't solidified really that position, maybe but once or twice in the last 20 years. I mean, they need that left tackle, that big, long, athletic kid, and we're going to get into it. People were talking about Simmons' length on the message boards. He's a big, tall kid. He's 6'7", so he's going to have natural length. But some of these guys that are that big, they have these freakish length, arm lengths that go above what they already have. And Simmons doesn't have that, but that's fine. He fits that criteria. He's big. He's athletic. He can move. He can handle speed rushers. He can handle everything that a defensive end, especially an elite level pass rushing end, can provide and give you problems. You've seen that FSU, when they can't protect the blind side of the quarterback, or just in general, it wrecks the whole offense, whether it's protecting, in the run game, whether it's the passing game, whatever it is. They haven't solidified that position, and it's been their Achilles heel for close to 2 decades. And I think Simmons finally fixes that problem. And the good thing is, it's not just Lucas Simmons. They brought in other guys in their class last year that can also help, but he's the first true traditional left tackle prospect they've signed in almost a decade.
So Simmons is from Sweden. His dad played college ball at Oklahoma. There's good lineage there, obviously. He's raw. There's going to be some developmental time that Florida State's got to be patient with. How much development time do we think is realistic for Lucas, who might be an early enrollee? We'll kind of see how that plays out. But what's realistic as far as his development at the college level?
I think offensive linemen in general need a year of adjusting to college football. It's a major difference. You're talking going from sometimes playing kids in high school that are 5'10", 180, 90 pounds, and you can see at the level he plays at, he just dominates kids at that level. That's not 8A football that he's playing at. That's not St. Thomas. That's not Heritage. That's not, even if you go up to even the bowl school, that these schools, they play high-end teams from out of state. Those kids struggle to adjust to the college level and play right away. I don't care where they come from. The offensive line, you're going against sometimes 22, 23-year-old men, and you're asking an 18-year-old kid to block a grown man that has been in college for 3 years. So Simmons really needs that 1 year adjustment. And I think that's the one thing that's hurt FSU is a lot of these offensive linemen, they've had to rush them in as freshmen. And the mental side of it, once you beat a guy down enough and they lose that confidence, I think Jaywan, people bring up Jaywan Williams. Jaywan is probably one of the most talented kids that FSU ever recruited. I remember being at the FSU camp, and here's a 6'6", 6'7" kid, and he's putting both legs behind his head. That's how flexible he was. But he had major shoulder surgeries, and his body at that time of 18, 19, 20, where you're developing, he never got that development. He never got that chance to let his body heal and get bigger, stronger, and even more athletic. And that's the one thing you don't want to do with these kids. You don't want to rush them in there. You don't want Simmons to be forced as a freshman to have to go in and get beat up, and then they lose confidence. And sometimes you never get them back mentally. So if he could get that 1 year of fresh, where he can redshirt and get in that college weight program, he needs to get a lot bigger and stronger. The one thing you're going to notice, he's a very lean. What if he's 290, 300? He doesn't look it. He looks like he's 265, 270. He needs to get a college ready body. And the only way that's going to happen is he redshirts. Maybe he plays in 2 or 3 games just to, so he can understand what the college game is all about. But the mental side and the physical side of it, of development, he needs that 1 year. And Florida State, fortunately, now is in a position where they have guys, the Robert Scotts, Rod Orr's now in that same position. Rod Orr's in the same position Lucas Simmons was in, where he's going into his 2nd year. By his 3rd year, he should start to develop. We've talked about Lloyd Willis. If this kid gets that 1 year, that another year from now, he could possibly start as a redshirt freshman. And that'd be a great position to be in with this kid. And that's fine. But I don't think he needs 3 years of development, but he definitely needs 1 full year of getting in that weight room and not being hurt, not having shoulder injuries or a leg injury where it stunts his growth. He needs to get in that weight program, and he needs to get the nutrition part of the college life. I mean, remember, these kids go from eating maybe once, twice a day, maybe 3 times. Now they're in that college program, and they're eating 5 times a day, and they're pounding calories and the nutrition side of it. They're developing themselves physically that they had never been able to do before. I think Simmons has a lot of room to grow, and it's going to happen, but fans need to be patient. This is not a Evan Neal. This is not a day 1 starter. Hey, plug and play. That's not what this kid is. He hasn't played a lot of football. I mean, you can see it. I saw him at the Under Armour Combine earlier this year, and there was things. He got physically overmatched at times against guys that have been playing. And it's not, hey, they were bigger. It's just the experience of playing 3-4 years of high school instead of 2 years.
Yeah, so good. It'll be good to watch his development through the years, as you're kind of describing. Florida State's landed Roderick Kearney. I know you've professed your love for Roderick, and you think he's one of the best offensive linemen in the state. Now, Lucas Simmons, one of the most highly regarded tackles in the state. We've seen Alex Atkins add through the transfer portal, through high school recruiting. Of late, it's been Caden Lyles from Wisconsin, Dimitri Emanuel from Charlotte, Bless Harris from Lamar. The room has grown, quality, quantity. This is a group that was 14 linemen. Now I believe they're at 19 scholarship linemen. I'm impressed. I'm impressed with what Alex Atkins has done, coming off a 3-6 and now a 5-7 season. What's kind of your view of what Alex Atkins has done?
I think what's impressive is that he's identified his needs early and just gone after them. And he's thrown a big net. My biggest complaint about Florida State and their recruiting on the O-line is you have to throw a big, wide net. You have to get numbers. And he's brought in numbers. He's brought in numbers from the portal. He's brought in numbers from the high school level. And that's the only way they're going to fix their O-line issues. I mean, they used to, it was like, all right, they signed 3 guys 1 year. I remember this year they signed Brady Scott. And I think the next year they didn't sign any. And now you have 2 years of where you sign 1 lineman, and then the next year you bring in 6. Well, what happened if 5 of those 6 don't work out, which happened? You have to bring in 4 to 5 guys every year because of these guys get injured. They're big kids. You don't know where they are mentally. You saw it with Abdul Bello. Abdul Bello came from a small private school in Orlando, and he never adjusted mentally to the game. He had the physical talent, but his mind did not work as quickly as his athletic ability. So you stunt his growth. So these guys he's bringing in, he's brought in a lot of guys, and they're all big, thick, wide body guys. Other than Lucas, most of them are physically, like Roderick Kearney looks like a kid that could come in and possibly take some snaps as a freshman. Now, I don't recommend it, but he doesn't look like a guy that needs 3 years. Like, when they recruited Maurice Smith, I really was high on Maurice Smith, but Maurice really didn't need to play as a freshman. He really was a guy 2 to 3 years down the road. You put on the weight. He's never been able to put on that weight. And a lot of that, I think, is because he had to play early. He's been injured. And everything we've talked about, he's been force-fed to play, and they haven't had that luxury. And you look at the numbers, I think they have 18 or 19 guys going into the season. When was the last time FSU had that type of depth and ability to have 2 teams or 3 teams worth of depth on the O-line? And that helps all the way down to the scout teams, because a lot of those guys are going to be playing and being used as the other team's players that they're going against each week. And those guys aren't walk-ons or non-scholarship players. Those guys are actual guys that other schools wanted. And now that makes your team and your offense better. And I just think he's done a phenomenal job. I don't think he gets enough credit. And he's been given a lot, but what he's done in the 3 years, it's about as good of a coaching job and recruiting that you could do, especially O-line. You only need 1 wide receiver. I mean, if we're going to get into that after, if FSU lands Shelton Sampson, Dugans looks like a great coach with 1 guy. You need 5 guys on the O-line plus 5 back. Like, it's not as easy. You only need 1 running back. If the running back coach hits and gets a Dalvin Cook or a Devontae Freeman, he looks like a great coach. You get 1 defensive end like a Jermaine Johnson, the whole D-line you just need 1 guy. The O-line, you need 5 plus 5, and it's numbers and the coach, and a lot more goes into it. But like I said, he's done a phenomenal job. I think we can all agree. I think he's given life to the FSU program, because you do not win without offensive and defensive alignment. You look at how FSU's offense has struggled the last 4 or 5 years, and the number one reason it's struggled is because the offensive line's been a train wreck. And he's given us hope, or the FSU fans hope, with the recruiting that he's done.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention Jasmine Turrentine from South Carolina, the transfer there, has got 10 games of starting experience. So, yeah, a really incredible job that Alex Atkins has done. And the strength of this 2023 recruiting class is on the offensive and defensive lines so far. Still a lot of work to do at various positions. So, Fish, you've kind of done deep dives for us on offensive needs and defensive needs. But let's give you a draft board. If you can pick 1 guy on the offensive side of the ball, anybody you want, committed, uncommitted, any state, 1 guy on the offensive side of the ball that you can plug and put on Florida State's roster, he will sign in December. Who would you take?
I think it's Samson Shelton, the wide receiver out of Baton Rouge Catholic. And I think, I think because LSU's going in through, it's kind of a transition year. They have a new coach in Brian Kelly. And if they're going to steal a kid, especially out of Baton Rouge, which is LSU's backyard, if they're going to steal a kid, this is the year to do it. Plus, Coach Yak is from that area. They have another assistant coach on the staff that, I don't know if he coached there or was the head coach. So this is the one kid that they have a chance to steal, if they have a chance to steal someone. I think there's a lot of talented kids in Florida, but I think they've already been spoken for already. This is a kid that they kind of focused in on. He's their number 1 receiver on their board, along with Hakeem Williams. I actually think they have a better shot at Sampson than they do at Hakeem. I think Hakeem's either going to Texas A&M or Georgia. This kid's a difference maker. You turn on his film, he gives them that big receiver. He's that Kelvin Benjamin, that big receiver, kind of like how Tamron Terry was a big receiver, athletic, that can run, that can beat the defense. And he gives them that guy that draws the double team and makes it easier to scheme on the other side of the field. Your other receivers are going to see a lot of single coverage. Now it opens up room for your tight ends and your running back. And defenses can't just stack the box when you have a kid that is this talented. And I think if they can land Samson Shelton, and I think they have a shot, which is crazy for me to say that they have a shot at a kid out of Baton Rouge. But this is the one kid I think is a difference maker. I think it will settle the fan base down on Coach Dugans and his ability to recruit. And I've always said, listen, coaches are only as good as the players they bring in. I know fans sit there and they talk about development. You know what? As great as Alabama is and Ohio State, I'm not saying they don't develop, but it's a lot easier when you're bringing in these type of guys. Sampson is a ready-made receiver. He's going to come in day one and he's going to put his foot in the ground and get by your DB, and you're going to go, all right, our guys, you've been out at the practices and the guys can't get separation. This kid's going to go out there and you're going to be like, all right, Jerry, we know why this guy was the number one receiver in the country. It's just, they're different. And fans a lot of times don't understand that side of it, that it's sometimes these coaches just need that one guy, that difference maker, that guy that, you know what, no matter what play call you call this kid's number, that play is going to work in the playbook.
Yeah, I can't argue with you at all. I mean, definite position of need, definite guy who can change the game. Hey, if Richard Young comes on the table somehow for Florida State, don't see that happening. That's a guy that I would say he's probably up there on a lot of the Florida State fans' wish list, but probably not realistic from where we're looking right now. Okay, defensive side of the ball, same question. One guy, committed, uncommitted, any state, who do you take?
Yeah, I take Jordan Hall, defensive tackles. Florida State's got some good D tackles right now. They don't have a great one. You look at when Odell's had his best defenses, whether it's Goldman, Timmy Jernigan, Corey Simon. This kid is in that level. He's a difference maker. You turn on the film, he plays D end, he plays D tackle, and he lives in the backfield. And he's not just a straight run stuffer. He can get in the backfield, put pressure up the middle of the field. Quarterbacks do not feel comfortable when they have pressure coming at them straight ahead. And that's what this kid does. He makes quarterbacks uncomfortable in the pocket. They got to move the pocket. And that creates a lot, like, you know how it is. When they got good D tackles, those D ends just stick their ears back and they go, all right, it makes their jobs easier. So the Keldrick Falk's jobs are a lot easier when you have a Jordan Hall in the middle and he can do what he does. I think he's the number one prospect left on their board on the defensive side. They're doing a great job in Jacksonville. That was the one thing with Norvell. You were like, all right, which is the one part of Florida that they can, they've always had that one area with coaches. They've either done well in Orlando for a certain amount of time. They've done well in Tampa, or whether it's Dade County, Broward County. I've talked to you about how I think they need to do a better job in Pensacola and that West Coast. But Jacksonville seems like the one area that they've zeroed in on. They've taken advantage of Florida being down. Jordan Hall, all right, they've already got Kearney. They're about to learn this kid from Reigns, this defensive back. Hall solidifies another need position, and it shows that focus in that one area, they're starting to dominate in Jacksonville. Hall would be, to me, he's a day one starter, or he's at least in the two deep, and he's making an impact year one. They have a lot of guys on their depth chart right now that are guys that, they have the potential 2 years down the road to, we talked about the defensive tackle that came from Homestead last year. They talk about his potential to play in the NFL. Well, Hall's already there. He's that guy that is a difference maker. He makes the life of the linebackers easier. The corners and DBs don't have to cover as quick, as long. He's the difference maker up front. You don't have a lot of these guys around. Coaches are looking for those special D tackles. Jordan Hall would be a big time get. I think he's a 5-star. I don't care what the rankings have him. He's a top 5 player in the state of Florida. He'd be an instant impact player, and it'd be a big time get for Odell.
You brought up the rankings just now, and we take them with a grain of salt, but Florida State is 35th in Rivals rankings. That's only counting the 11 commitments. Look, the rankings are a little bit flawed at this point in July. I mean, Duke has 25 3-star prospects committed, so they're higher in Rivals rankings just because they have more quantity. I would say Florida State clearly has more quality, and that class is going to continue to grow and grow. Well, look, Fish has had some great recruiting coverage for us on the Osceola.com. You can check out his offensive needs, his defensive needs. He had a good scouting report on Lucas Simmons, too. We're obviously going to have a lot of coverage leading up to camp starting in about 2 weeks, believe it or not. And Florida State's going to have the ACC kickoff with representatives up in Charlotte next week. So lots going on football is, believe it or not, just around the corner, even though we are talking on July 12th. But Fish, appreciate you joining me. Thanks for talking, and we'll see you soon.
Sounds good, man.